What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I'm gonna run through a couple of headlines right quick, just to give you guys a little heads up on what's going on with
Sir.
I love that stinger, by the way, but check this out, y'all. U.S. producer prices unexpectedly fall, dragged down by energy. That is right. So, yeah, this is just lovely. Look, I'm going to read the little synopsis right there right quick. U.S. wholesale prices fell in March by the most since October 2023, restrained by energy costs and adding to evidence of muted inflation ahead of the Trump administration's tariffs on U.S. trading partners. That is right. So, as a matter of fact, going into this, China once again raised their tariffs to 125%. Right now, ours is at 145% at this point, but that was before China raised theirs. I really hope that Donald Trump just goes ahead and nukes the Chinese economy. As a matter of fact, slap 400% tariffs, like Kevin O'Leary said.
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts.
Just do it. Seriously. Like, I don't care. I would love to pay more for Chinese goods right now if it meant the fall of China. As a matter of fact, if it meant that they back down first. This is about pride at this point, right? Like, American pride. Like, I really don't care about raising prices. I do not give a damn, because you know how much these ships, you know how much cash they would have to bring with them when they pull up into a port to drop off Chinese goods. That would be so absurd, an absurd amount of money to have on them. It would absolutely nuke their economy almost overnight, right? 15% of Chinese exports come to the United States. I believe it's 15%, or at least that's the numbers that I've been seeing thrown around. I haven't actually dipped into that. It's probably less than that, but you never know. But you nuke 15% of your economy and see exactly what happens, folks. It is terrible. Check this out. Vietnam prepared to crack down on Chinese trade to avoid Trump tariffs, per a report. Then, once again, this is another signal, like we saw yesterday with Australia not wanting anything to do with China at this point. Once again, this is Donald Trump's kind of genius move here. I get this. A lot of people, I've been getting excoriated down in the comment section with, a lot of people that just, I don't understand where their arguments are coming from. They're trying to explain to me that tariffs are going to raise costs for everything, and it's like, yes, I know this, but that's not it. That's not the only thing that they do, people. This is what I've been trying to explain. Like, they keep telling me this like I'm stupid or something. Like, yes, I know this. I'm not saying it's a good thing that prices are going up, right? That is not what I'm saying at all. I'm trying to tell you that the corporate press narrative on this is that it's a tax on you. This is what I've been saying since the beginning. It's a tax on you. But that's not the whole truth, because certain markets, right, it just depends. It depends on the market itself. It depends on the country, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of factors. Some of these companies might absorb some of the tariff to stay competitive in the market. And people keep saying, they're either overlooking me saying that, or they're ignoring it, or they're too stupid to figure out what that means. That's what I don't get, right? Like, I'm not saying that prices are not going to go up. Haven't ever said that. I'm saying that some of these companies, they're going to absorb some of that tariff. And as for proof, I put out video after video showing this, like Ferrari and BMW, Ford, all these other, well, not Ford, that was something else to do with that same video. That was an accident that I said that. I didn't mean to. Sorry about that. But you know what I mean? It's like, Ferrari states that it's going to raise its prices by 10%. Well, hang on. The tariff for Ferrari, for automobiles, was 25%. What does that mean? That means they're absorbing 15% of that tariff. Sure, slowly they may raise the price even more over time. That doesn't negate the fact that they're still absorbing some of that tariff. BMW, they're raising their prices by 4%. I actually had a guy try to tell me that I am stupid because BMW raising the price by 4%. Then he adds that to the 25% tariff, and he was like, now you have prices 25% higher. Come on, my guy, you're not that stupid, are you? You can't be that stupid. They're raising the price by 4%. That means they're absorbing 21% of that tariff. That's what that means. These people are dumb. That's not how that works. They weren't raising the price just blanketly. That's not a news story, my guy. But when the corporate press puts out a narrative that, oh, Trump's got these tariffs, he's raising prices, then they see that these, it's a tax on you, essentially. That's their narrative. And then they see, oh, these companies are putting out a press release saying they're going to raise their price by 4%. They put that out there. It's like, look at these companies raising prices. We told you. It's like, no, you don't take that 4% and add it to the tariff. That's not all the way around. That's just to the United States, right? There are other countries that exist outside of the United States. Plus, if you would have watched that entire video or read that article, that is only for BMWs that were produced outside of the United States, because we do manufacture some BMWs inside the country. And yes, once again, I do understand that some of the materials for some of these cars that are built in the United States come from other countries, and yes, that means that some domestic goods are going to go up as well. Yes, it is not lost on me that this is the case. I'm sorry, I had to get that out of the way because I've been dealing with a lot of knuckleheads. I'll put it that way. Dealing with a lot of knuckleheads, y'all. But let's get into the actual news story because I'm already like 6 minutes into this thing and haven't even gotten into that yet. Yeah, check this out, y'all. Once again, we got some more corporate press manipulation 101 right here, y'all. Check it out. U.S. budget deficit grows to $1.3 trillion, the second highest 6-month level on record. And you love how they're doing that, right? Like, I don't know if you guys noticed that, the highest 6-month level on record. That's for the first 6 months. First part, second highest on record. Second highest on record. Right. So what was the first highest? Yeah, that was under Biden, as a matter of fact, but they don't tell you that, actually. They're trying to say it's because of Trump. But we're going to break all this down. Let's get into it, y'all. The U.S. budget deficit has grown to more than $1.3 trillion in the first half of the 2025 fiscal year, the second highest 6-month deficit on record, according to the Treasury Department data released Thursday. The deficit for October through March spans the administrations of President Joe Biden and President Donald Trump. The previous high in the 4 decades of record-keeping was $1.7 trillion in the first half of fiscal year 2021. That is right. That is well into the Biden administration when the government was tackling the COVID-19 pandemic. Right. Fiscal years start in October, right? So it would be like fiscal year 2025 started October 1st, 2024. So what does that tell you? It started in 2020 fiscal year, right? So that was 3 months of Donald Trump's presidency and the first 3 months of Joe Biden's presidency would be the first, right? So we were still in COVID. Yeah, it was winding down, but we were still in COVID. So, but that is not how the damn deficits are usually gauged. They're usually gauged year over year. What does it matter what halfway through the year? Yeah, most of the spending goes through the latter half of the year because of Congress for the most part. But we just so happen to get a reconciliation bill going through. So now they're going to do all this. What they're trying to do essentially is what I'm getting at is they're trying to make it look really bad on the Trump administration. But once again, the Trump administration hasn't had time to spend much money yet. Hasn't had time. In other words, what I'm getting at is the Trump administration hasn't fixed its budgets yet. Actually, that's not going to happen until October 1st, 2025, right? So that's when we can actually gauge what spending is like under Donald Trump. We can't really gauge that right now because there's all kinds of stuff going on with Doge, with cutting departments, cutting jobs, blah, 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 you name it. But none of that actually factors in to any of this. This is why this is deceitful, y'all. So that's that. I just wanted to get that out of the way. A Treasury official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to preview the data said the increased spending was in part due to a mix of expenditures, including cost of living increases to Social Security payouts, higher Medicare and Medicaid costs, increased disaster assistance to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and Defense Department spending. The widening deficit, which occurs when spending exceeds the amount of money being raised, comes as the Trump administration has touted a plan to reduce waste and spending in the federal government through Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, also known as Doge. It does not come as they are doing it, right? This is so funny how they phrase all of this. Oh, it comes as the Trump administration touted, right? So all this stuff that they're talking about, the Trump administration, like I just explained, touting all of this stuff with Doge and cutting and all this, this is not going to take effect until next fiscal year, as a matter of fact. So what they're trying to connect to things that are not connected. Essentially, they're comparing apples to tomatoes. It's not even oranges. It's not even fruits. They're just comparing something totally different, and it makes no sense. But once again, it's media manipulation at its best. It also comes as House Republicans, see, once again, it comes, this deficit spending comes as House Republicans narrowly approved their budget framework Thursday, which advances $4.5 trillion in tax cuts and seeks at least $1.5 trillion in cuts to federal programs and services. What does that tell you, folks? What does that tell you? Anybody that pays attention and is actually paying attention to paying attention. Is that even a thing? Can you pay attention to paying attention? But anyway. Okay, so the 6-month budget is $1.7 trillion. Oh, they're looking at $1.5 trillion in cuts to federal programs and services. What does that mean? Right, like what they're trying to say here is what they're trying to get you to do essentially is the $1.7 trillion is just 6 months worth of spending. Well, that's not the case, folks, because what was our budget deficit for last year, right? It hasn't increased much, right? Essentially, what I'm getting at is they're trying to say that the $1.7 trillion is going to double. In other words, it's going to be, what would that be? $3.1 trillion if you just take 1.7 and 1.7? I think that's what that is, huh? No, that would be $3.4 trillion, I think. Yeah, I'm sorry, $3.4 trillion. I got the math a little bit screwed up in my head right there. So that's what they're trying to get you to do. But that's not how the government works, folks. Once again, like I said, last year's deficit was it was 1.8 trillion. It was almost 1.8 trillion. It was 1.78 something, I believe. I apologize if I'm getting those numbers a little bit wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was, 1.78. So I always say 1.8, just round up, might as well, right? That's what they're trying to get you to do, is add 1.7 and 1.7 to get 3.4, but that's not how this is going to work. That's not how it works at all, y'all. Doge has recommended plans to lay off a large portion of the 2.4 million members of the civilian federal workforce, eliminate entire agencies, including the Education Department, and cut other government services. The new Treasury Department data shows a deficit of $1.307 trillion for October through March, the first 6 months of the fiscal year 2025. See what I mean? They're trying to make you think without actually saying it. But it's not going to be what they're saying. In other words, it's not going to be 3.4. I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous. Even under COVID spending, right? Like Donald Trump's last fiscal year with the stimulus package and all that added in, it was $3.3 trillion of deficit spending. That was for, like I said, with the COVID spending and everything added up, it was $3.3 trillion. Yeah, we haven't had that this time. We're not going to have that this time. Plus, what does that tell you? Yeah, we're not going to have any of that spending, so there's no way that you can just take the 1.307 and add that together. It's just not how it works. Plus, that number is vastly different than 1.7 is what they said a second ago, isn't it? All right, so I got those numbers mixed up. It was 1.3. So all those numbers from before, just disregard the 3.4 or whatever, because 1.3 and 1.3 would be 2.6. So I apologize for that. So once again, let's keep going. I screwed it up, but oh well, it happened, y'all. Full transparency. I screwed it up, thought about it for a second, and figured it out and cleared the air. So let's keep going. And I done forgot what the hell I was talking about, but don't just think that take 1.3 and 1.3, add them together, and that's going to be our deficit spending for the year, because it's not. And spending is $139 billion more in the first 3 months of 2025 compared to the same period last year, with borrowing over that period $41 billion higher. In the Oval Office on Thursday, Musk said Doge expected to achieve $150 billion in savings during the next fiscal year by reducing waste and fraud, which he described as very common. That's much lower than his previous target of cutting $1 trillion, a number he used last month in a Fox News interview. Yes, sometimes reality doesn't align with expectations. So what? Once again, it is hilarious, though, because you love how they phrased that. Once again, they're manipulating that, because they said to achieve $150 billion in savings during the next fiscal year, which is irrelevant for this fiscal year. That $1 trillion was supposed to be for this fiscal year, by the way. So, once again, they're comparing apples to, I don't know, cucumbers. I can't stand the corporate press, y'all. I hate these people. I know it's not okay to hate anything, but, when it's an abstract concept kind of corporate press, I guess it's okay. Maya McGinnis, president of the Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, said Thursday, "The numbers are undeniable. We are racking up debt at an alarming pace, and it's unlikely to end anytime soon. In fact, lawmakers seem hell-bent on adding to that sum with trillions of unpaid for tax cuts and spending increases." I can't stand this right here, because what did we just hear about? What did the corporate press just admit to? That, yeah, the budget resolution, right, the reconciliation bill, they're looking for $1.5 trillion in cuts. Yeah, that kind of goes against what she was saying. I don't see any end to this anytime soon. What? The budget resolution is looking for $1.5 trillion in cuts. What are you talking about right there, my lady? And I can't stand how they say unpaid for tax cuts. Does that make any sense? I understand what they're trying to do with the unpaid for tax cuts, but it doesn't make any sense, because they always do this, right? You don't pay for tax cuts. What do you do for tax cuts? You cut the government, for crying out loud, which is exactly what the Trump administration is doing. So they're not paying for tax cuts. It's so stupid how they do that. Like that just makes no sense whatsoever, because they're basing this upon the fact that, we got to fund the federal government. Might as well do it in a deficit, so we're going to have to pay for it anyway. No. Why? Why not just cut a bunch of employees? Cut out entire departments, for crying out loud. These people make no sense. And you're not paying for that, by the way, because it's a tax cut. It's just adding to the deficit. I understand what they're saying, and I reject what they're saying. Put it that way. It's a sneaky way of lawmakers and corporate press pundits to try to manipulate you into believing something that, we got to pay for this somewhere. No, we don't, as a matter of fact. We could just cut the freaking government. Or Congress could show a spine and just say, no, we just going to shut the government down. How about that? We need to correct the unsustainable course we are on and start focusing on fixing our nation's finances before it's too late, McGinnis said. What do you think Doge is doing? This is another thing, and I'm sorry to keep stopping, but these people are so insane that it drives me up the freaking wall. What do you think Doge is doing? Right? These same people are yelling, screaming, suing the federal government to stop it from auditing itself so it can try to find waste, fraud, and abuse, so it can cut government spending. They're trying to stop that, and then at the same time doing an end run around, going to the corporate press and saying, oh, the ship is sinking, y'all. We've got to do something about all this deficit spending. It's like, are you kidding me? You're suing the government to stop it from auditing itself, for crying out loud. Do you not see the conflict of interest here? The cognitive dissidence that is going on with these people is next level. Like, it's on just several different levels higher than anybody else. Like, it is insane what is going on, because once again, it's these very same people. It's nuts, y'all. This article is nuts. Tensions remain within the Republican conference about the scope of the proposed tax and spending cuts. Some want more in tax cuts than what is in the blueprint, while others want steeper spending cuts. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has frequently spoken about the need to tamp down on spending. Obviously. He told Bloomberg Television earlier this month that the nation would creep closer to hitting the statutory debt ceiling on the so-called X date as soon as the early summer. We are going to get onto the warning track sometime in May or June, Bessent said. That is right. Once again, folks, these people have been kicking the can down the road since 1999, 1998, I forget when the last year they actually balanced the budget. But they've been kicking the can down the road ever since. Every single president has increased spending year over year over year over year. And it is getting insane. And now we realize, look, we've got a major problem. And the very people that are trying to stop the government from cutting spending are complaining about the government cutting spending. Like, the Trump administration comes in and says, we've got to fix this, y'all. We've got to take drastic action. This is nuts. And then these people come out of nowhere and say, we don't like how you're doing it. Go about it a different way. You're threatening our democracy, for crying out loud. Trying to say it's illegal. What would you have the government do? Seriously, like, these people are so insane that it is beyond belief that they would actually physically try to stop the government from auditing itself while maintaining the position that the government needs to cut spending. This is why I call Democrats insane all the time. This is why Democrats are in a cult. People that listen to Democratic lawmakers repeat those talking points. That is cult-like behavior, by the way. They don't have any frame of reference for what they're saying at all. They don't have any evidence to back up what they're saying. It is just insanity incarnate, by the way. And this isn't everybody. This is just a small group of people that have a really loud voice for the most part. But I just find it absurd that, the corporate press would manipulate this so much. Like, why put this article out there? Like, seriously, why tell you that it's it's the second highest on record, for crying out loud? Yeah, the government has been spending like crazy. Like, what was the deficit spending for the last 3 months of Joe Biden's presidency, actually, when a lot of his student debt relief went through? That's probably the main reason for this. It is insane what they do to manipulate the news, y'all. But once again, I'm here to kind of bring it back to kind of at least inform you of how you're being manipulated, right? Don't take my opinions as fact. Never do that, for crying out loud. But, it is what it is. But I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. This is just nuts, y'all. I mean, y'all probably have to agree that that's heavily manipulated news right there. It really is, y'all. This is just one of the most insane articles I've read in a pretty good little while as far as the manipulation goes. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.